Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your favorite podcast about gaming that is actually a secret podcast about friendship. I'm joined by the entire My Mythical Meta crew. I've got my brother Benjamin here with me.
Hello.
And my two best friends, Derek and Randy.
Howdy. I'm Derek. He's Randy.
Everyone is here. How was y'all's week?
So far, so good.
Yeah, it's been all right.
Crushing my running goals, getting closer to my 5K.
Very good. What's y'all's weight loss progress?
I am at almost 25 pounds.
For the year?
Insane, dude. How it just sheds off you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Benjamin, how's yours?
It's pretty good. I'm at about 10.
Cool.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I actually hit my weight ATL today. Hopefully
what's
tomorrow.
ATL?
All-time low.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
That's great.
I'm walking on sunshine. Wow.
Yeah. I have about 10 more pounds to go before I hit mine.
Hell yeah.
I have about 80 to go.
Hey, I believe in you, Travis.
That's easy, man. I believe in you too.
You could do it by the end of the year if you wanted.
can.
I'm not even trying.
You can do it by the end of the year.
Yeah.
January 1st, 2025, you could be 80 pounds lighter.
Yep.
That gut,
But
gone.
food is so good.
I bet if you really wanted to, you could do it by your birthday.
I believe in you.
I bet you could.
Yeah,
I
but
believe.
food is so yummy.
It is.
It is. Yep.
You can still have it, just have less of it.
And like watching TV is great.
You can still do it, just do less of it.
Well, guys, it was awesome being able to hang out last week and get 2 league games in. We had a great game day with me, Derek, and Randy hanging out for most of the day. Benjamin had a debate tournament for most of the day, but then came and met up with us, picked up some packs from Murders at Markov Manor, and we were able to get 2 league games in. Benjamin, how'd your debate tournament go?
Great. I had 4 debaters qualify for city championships.
Whoa!
Yeah, so we're excited. That'll be the first weekend in March at the courthouse, which is always a cool experience to take some...
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, we take the debaters. They get to debate in the courtrooms. The judges sit at the bench where the judges actually sit. The kids sit at the lawyer tables.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's
Good
really
job
neat.
to them.
So shout out to those debaters. I don't know if I can say their names or not now that I think about it.
I wouldn't.
But if you join our Patreon, we'll shout you out that way.
That's right. And for our shout out this week, our number 1 patron, David.
Yay!
Thank you, David.
David holding on to that position as our number 1 patron. Anyone can join our Patreon at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. Here are your perks for joining. We have one available tier. It's $4 a month, which is basically $1 per episode. And here's your perks. First, a 20% off code for ElDoradoGaming.com. You can use the normal promo code META just for listening to the podcast for 10, but by joining our Patreon, you can get an exclusive 20% off code. Your second perk, early and ad-free content. And you can access the My Mythical Meta Discord server, where you can message us directly, talk about the games you play and the games we play, and potentially play games with us directly. Really excited for that opportunity to get to know some of the new Magic players that are joining our community. And Derek, what's our surprise perk for joining the Patreon this week?
Yeah, so for this month, you can open hand slap my father in the face as hard as you can. One time. Open-handed, no rings.
As hard as you can.
You have to provide your own transportation.
Join our Patreon.
I thought you were going to say your mother.
Right?
Let's do our...
The Eldorado Ascension Classic.
Hello, Commander. I do my killing before breakfast. 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock. I do my killing after breakfast. I know Kung Fu.
Come on, stop trying to hit me and hit me.
You throw another moon at me, and I'm gonna lose it.
Allied to good! Nightmare to you!
Eldorado Ascension Classic Breakdown. Derek, still with a healthy lead at 54 points. My God, Derek earned 17 points last week over the course of only 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Rise and grind, baby.
Well, Derek kind of showed us how the sausage was made and was basically like, I have all of these achievements in mind when I made these 2 new decks.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Benjamin has taken second place away from me and is at 43 points. And I am in third, only 1 single point behind Benjamin with 42. Randy bringing up the end at 34 points. Randy and I each earned 10 points last week. Benjamin earned 15, and Derek earned 17. An insane game.
I'm getting comfortable down here in fourth. Got a little hut set up.
Got your chair all out.
Next week I'm building the tiki bar, so...
Benjamin, I just want to, extend an olive branch to you.
Sure.
How can we get Derek down?
Well, I don't know about I've started building a couple of decks with the achievements in mind as well.
Oh no.
So I haven't had a chance to pull out any new decks, but I will, and they're coming.
Last week actually still felt pretty good for me, so Benjamin came straight from his tournament to our game shop to play and ended up borrowing 2 of my decks. So that got him some points for playing other players' decks. And then Benjamin won both games. So that's where the majority of his points came in, getting first place twice.
Yeah.
But I got a little consolation for that by earning Ingenuity, being the deck builder for those decks. So that felt pretty good too. Derek, tell us about where all your points came from in your new deck.
I played Aragorn, King of Gondor. He's the red, white, blue Aragorn that cares about the Monarch mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
I got second place with him. I don't think I got a ton of points for that deck.
Yeah, you got new deck and My Hero.
The other one is Alinda, the Dusk Rose. I've had Alinda since she came out in Ixalan, and then I bought the Vampire Precon that came out with the new Ixalan set, and I just kind of replaced the bad stuff and put in a lot of good aristocrat type style sacrifice mechanics. And Alinda is super cool in that when y'all's creatures die, she gets bigger, and then when she dies, I make a gigantic board equal to her power. So it was about making her get as strong as possible, which got me our Go Tallest achievement.
Yeah, which is worth 3 points.
And then all she had to do was die, and suddenly I got Go Widest.
I just thought of that Hamilton line. All he had to do was die. That's a lot less work. We ought to give it a try. Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing deck. Derek in that game earned second, shared it with Randy's Eldrazi deck. The point for new deck. The point for going widest. The point for going tallest.
And
the point for first blood.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because I killed somebody with commander damage is what it was.
Yep, you killed me with commander damage, so you got I did it for that. And
I think that's it.
that was all for that game, but still 12 points in a single game. Insane. Absolute insanity. That was a fun weekend, a great game day. And I look forward to the next one.
I just went back and checked that is actually the most points I've scored with the deck so far. Joda only had 11 points.
Wow. Okay, so Derek, you know you can't play Alinda again until you've played all 27 other color combinations.
Woof. I don't have it in me to play colorless.
I
that dog.
We're all just going to
deck-
borrow
yeah.
Randy's precon.
I got y'all. Hey, that deck did nothing.
Yeah,
and then
Derek,
went
if you
crazy.
win, you have to give Randy a point for ingenuity.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to add anything to the league breakdown?
No, I think it's going well, but it is interesting how much our gameplay is changing based on the league, right? We're talking about building with the league in mind. We're talking about the plays that we make. At one point you were like, "Man, my board is such and such. Do I play this other creature or do I let myself get that achievement for only playing my commander?"
Oh, yeah, Trev did pull that off.
Yeah, I did when I was playing Haktos.
Yeah, so it is warping our metagame, and that's, I think, something people should be aware of, that anytime you start playing competitively, even if there's no prizes on the line, it changes everything. So make sure you incentivize the right things, the things you want to see.
I also think that, and I think scientists will tell you this, is that when you start to record data, it starts to alter the results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really does. Because, I'm sitting here having never cared about win percentages or who's won more games or whatever for the last 5 years. And now I'm like, man, Benjamin, you and I need to take Derek down.
Right.
I'm making my deck so strong these days that
I know.
I've been prepared for this.
All right, so let's get to this week's topic. The Wizards of the Coast psychographics. Wizards of the Coast, over the course of their many years of game design, not only with Magic the Gathering, but with Dungeons & Dragons, these psychographics, these psychological profiles that they've created for their players, they use these player profiles to focus their card design. Each time they're designing a Magic the Gathering card or any other card game or any other Dungeons & Dragons class or feature, they're always thinking, what type of player does this cater to? Who is going to enjoy this particular facet of our game? And they always want all of their games to cater to these profiles. We think it's important to know what profile you fit. Early in Season 1, during Episode 7, Why We Play. Why we play the game. Knowing why you play games, what enjoyment you get from a game, is a good way to cater your gaming experience to you. You can make sure that you're playing games that scratch your itch, rather than continuing to try stuff that never works and you end up disappointed all the time. So, the same reason knowing what you like in a game, knowing your psychographic, knowing your psychological profile, is just another way to know thyself. When you know yourself and you know what you like, you can have a better gaming experience. And the same is true for knowing your friends, and knowing your other gaming partners, the people you play games with. If you know them, then you can pick games and you can behave in games that are going to help other people and yourself to have fun.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about this is pretty much any enfranchised Magic player is going to feel like this is a lot of review, because there are multiple articles written by Wizards of the Coast, especially by Mark Rosewater. If you follow his Tumblr, he talks about it all the time. There are videos about it, right? But one of the interesting things about our podcast is that most of our listeners are not highly enfranchised Magic players. We have a lot of people who play other card games, especially Yu-Gi-Oh! We have a lot of people who are new to Magic. I happen to know we have people who got into Magic because of the podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of our listeners are board gamers or other people who are into gaming who may have not ever been exposed to these psychographics, and this will be brand new material for those people. It's still relevant, even though a lot of the things that we talk about and all of the information online that you find about this stuff is Magic focused. It is not only for Magic players. It's for anybody playing a game. And as we'll talk about in the words of wisdom later, it's useful in other areas of your life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, y'all want to get into it?
Yeah.
Let's dig in.
Randy, I think this first psychographic speaks mostly to you. I think that of the rest of us, you still have that starry-eyed wonder when you read new cards. I think this first profile is for you. Take it away.
The Timmy/Tammy, an emotional or adrenaline rush junkie. They want to experience something. They like the big stompy creatures, big flashy spells, a lot of kind of wild variants in their game. Also in it for a lot of of the social interaction aspect. So I mean, I think that's pretty spot on for me for the most part. I think I'm like 90% Timmy with a little bit of Johnny, just for like the creative aspects of Johnny. But yeah, I just want to do something cool, and then I'm mainly in it just to hang out.
Yeah, I was just reviewing Mark Rosewater's article about this topic as we were preparing, and he said that the name Timmy just came up because he wanted to personify the kind of kid, imagine a 13-year-old opening their pack, they flip to the rare. What do they want to see? Do they want to see a land? Probably not.
No, never.
I get real bummed out.
The card he talks about is Verdant Force. It is a green creature, mana cost 4, green, 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 and it is a 7/7. They want to see a big, stompy, powerful creature.
It's a bad card. It's a bad card.
I love Verdant Force.
Man, I do too, but of all the forces, it's probably the weakest one.
Yeah.
If you want Verdant Force, get Tendershoot Dryad. Jeez.
Yeah, Tendershoot Dryad is
Illustrious
better now.
Wonderglyph.
Well, that's just power creep. You can't.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't do anything about that. But
Power creep's getting everything.
I was thinking of another creature, Gigantosaurus.
Yeah.
Is 5 green, for, what is it, a 10-10?
I think so, or 12-12 or something. It's
5
something
green
double
for a
digits.
10-10.
And he says 5 green. It's not 5 and a green. It's green, 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 green.
Yes. So 5 mana total. And what that tells us in that mana cost is you have to be playing only green.
Yeah, it is a 10-10.
It's simply impossible to cast this creature otherwise, but it comes out as a 10-10. This is a Timmy's dream. Like, this is what they want to see, and lots of new players are like this. They get excited by big creatures and big spells. These are the types of creatures that I used to get Derek and Randy into the game. And it doesn't have to be specifically one big creature, a 10-10. I got Randy into the game with armies of goblins.
Yep.
That's the same idea, though, is it's a whole lot. It's an extreme in one direction or the other. And that's what Timmys really love. They want an emotional experience. So when we say it's like the adrenaline rush, they want to see King Kong and Godzilla, just bashing into each other. Or they want to see armies clashing on the battlefield.
For Randy and I, at least, we both love Godzilla, and just two monsters beat the hell out of each other. That's just the movie version
I've
of
lost
a Timmy
count
person.
of the number of times y'all wear the same Godzilla shirt every day.
I think, am I going to
when
hang
y'all
out with
wear
Randy
the same
today?
Godzilla shirt together.
Yeah. And I'm like, I can't wear this shirt because he's going to be wearing it today.
And then sure enough, you show up and you're both wearing the same Godzilla shirt.
Yeah.
Another type of card that Timmys and Tammys like are spells with high variance. So cards that include dice rolling or coin flipping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking specifically about the Baldur's Gate dragons.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Baldur's Gate ancient dragons that have you roll a 20-sided dice.
I love those dragons.
And you get that number of creatures, or you get that number of treasures, or you get that number of +1/+1 counters.
Or 1/1 blue fairy dragons?
Yes.
It's something
Yeah.
like that. But, I mean, you could roll a 1 or a 2 on those.
Yeah.
But there's always that hope that you could roll a 20 or roll somewhere in the 15 through 20 and make it really, really worth it.
I mean, even 10 is like, whoo, 10 treasure tokens?
I know. Yeah, so these types of cards really speak to Timmys and Tammys. They come in for the emotional experience. They want their blood to pump and to see a big creature or a big army or a big number. They want to see some type of overwhelming, powerful move.
Mm-hmm.
Johnnies and Jennies, this is the second psychographical profile. Johnnies and Jennies use the game as a way to express themselves. They see these games primarily as self-expression. I'm going to use the cards I find in order to express my own ideas or my own personality. So Johnnies and Jennies are defined by creative deck building, finding combinations of cards or interactions between cards that other people might not find or that might not be obvious. And they love finding unique uses for cards. Cards that seem like they don't belong somewhere, and finding a way to use them and a way to use them well. I think I have been a Johnny for most of my career as a Magic player. I love finding cards that don't seem very good and trying to find ways to make them work.
Travis, please tell them about the maze deck.
Oh, tell them about my Gates deck?
Yeah, the gates, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, so my deck right now uses Joda the Unifier as its commander, 5 colors, and its mana base is the cheapest, trashiest, most god-awful mana base I've ever used in my life. And that's because it's the Gates from the Ravnica sets. All of these are 2-color lands that enter the battlefield tapped. And just about any Magic player will tell you that of the 2-color lands, they are the worst, because they don't have any other special abilities. They're just slow, and they give you only 2 options. Well, in the set Dragon's Maze, there was a card called Maze's End, which, after a long bit of complicated text, it says, if you control 10 gates, you win the game. And so, the purpose now of this mana base, once I include Maze's End, is to get 10 gates out. It is only through luck that the set Baldur's Gate came out with approximately 9-ish, I want to say about 9-ish other gates.
Yeah.
So there is a chance now.
Yeah.
But still not as good for the rest of the deck as a normal mana base would be, because they're all still enter the battlefield tapped 2-color lands. And I just picked a 5-color commander that I could do it with. This particular deck is Joda the Unifier. I want to say that I made the rest of the deck pretty uniquely too.
I agree, yes.
Yeah.
Joda the Unifier gives all of your creatures a power boost for the number of legendary creatures you control. And I filled the deck with legendary creatures that also have partner.
Partner with.
Yeah, that's right. They have partner with. And that means whenever you play that creature, you get to search your deck for the card that creature is a partner with. So let's talk about Haldan and Paco, just for example. Haldan comes in, he has partner with Paco. I get to immediately search my deck, refill my hand with that additional card. And if I can cast it too, well now Joda is giving all of my creatures +3/+3. And I only had to play 1 card from my hand for it. The entire deck is filled with those. I want to say I have about 15 of those pairs, which easily fills 30 slots, which is my normal synergy slots for any commander deck I build. I say I've got about 30 slots for synergy stuff, just stuff that works well with the commander. That's how that particular deck works.
I think it's such a unique idea, and you also got a commander that works well with that idea.
Well, I got it from Benjamin's bad Tazri deck.
Right.
Because his deck is also full of partner with, but he literally made no exceptions. So like 64 of the cards all say partner with something else.
Right.
And I was like, I want to take that idea and build something good with it. But it is still handicapped by its Gates mana base at the same time.
Yeah. However, when we played this weekend, I took your Joda the Unifier deck and won by getting 10 gate.
Yeah.
He did the damn thing, and I was so surprised because I don't think that deck in my memory has ever won.
No, never. Never with a Maze's End. Even in all the variations that I had with Maze's End. It was a Golos deck before Golos got banned.
And Golos should
Golos
be the commander to do that with.
He would be the best because when he comes in, you get to search for a land. So you get to grab Maze's End immediately.
Yeah.
So once he got banned, I had to find another commander to hold on to this god-awful mana base. And I managed to find it with Joda, I think. But that story, even if you aren't a Magic player and was kind of confusing, just kind of encapsulates what Johnnies try to do. They try to find cards that may not be good in other places, and they try to make them work. And I'm still trying to do that now. Randy, you said you still sometimes feel like you're a Johnny?
You know, like I said, just a little bit, because I like...
Yeah.
I feel like I enjoy trying to find something that's just different a little bit.
Yeah.
When you talked about making shrines, I was like, Randy, this is not going to work. This is a bad idea.
Yeah.
You're going to regret it. And it's one of the strongest decks in our meta.
Yeah.
When it works.
Yeah.
And we have recorded the deck tech for it. I just have to edit it and put the video together.
Yeah. I feel like the first card that I feel like I found that was bad but could be good was Reality Acid in my Brago deck.
Yeah.
Because it's a card that's like, can't remember how it is. It's 3 or 4 mana, and I think it's that much.
3 mana.
Yeah, we have the power. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
When it leaves the battlefield, the owner of whatever it was enchanting sacrifices it.
Yeah, but it takes like 3... Normally it takes like 3 or 4 turns.
Yeah, it has an ability called Vanishing 3, which means it takes 3 turns and then it leaves the battlefield.
But Brago just lets me bounce it whenever Brago does combat damage, because I still own the card, so I can choose to bounce it. So it removes it from the creature or the permanent. That permanent has to get sacrificed right then and there, and then it comes back in.
Enchanting something.
Yeah, and so every turn I could just keep using it, instead of it just being a one-off, wait 3 turns, and then they both go to the graveyard. I can just keep on.
It's a brutal...
Yeah.
It's brutal in that deck.
We can demonstrate how bad this card is by looking at its cost. I'm on the Scryfall page. It is a 6-cent card.
Yeah. It is
6 cents.
It's 6 cents, and it's not because it's been printed into oblivion. There's probably maybe 3 printings of it.
There are literally 2 printings of it. Once in Planar Chaos and once in Time Spiral Remastered.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's been printed only twice, and it is a 6-cent card.
Yeah. It is a pretty garbage.
Because nobody wants to pay 3 mana to get rid of something 3 turns from now. Like, why do that when I could play Beast Within, Generous Gift,
Sword of Plowshares,
Anguish Unmaking, What do you say?
Swords.
Yeah, or anything less than 3
Yeah,
mana.
all the 1-drop white cards that can do the same thing
Yeah.
for, it's bad.
But you found the deck that it goes in, that it works really well in. And I think that is a Johnny trait. Finding cards that are bad in most places and finding a place where they can shine. I think that's really cool.
Before we jump to the next one, also we have to remember Randy's first deck was Glissa Artifacts in green-black, which is not a good artifact.
That is so
color.
true. Yeah.
I tried.
I didn't think you were Johnny, but now that we've been talking about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to
yeah.
use the Arcbound ability, which I thought was fun, and just do a lot of artifact bouncing and counters play with it. I think it could be done better now.
If you made it right now, I bet you could do a good job with it.
Yeah. It's more of a will thing. I feel like there's other Golgari commanders I would rather do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting how we talk more about it. You start noticing the cards that seem bad that are in Randy's decks, and then they're good anyway.
This isn't supposed to work like this.
we've had this joke before about the cards that are in Randy's signature spellbook: Hedron Archive and Dreamstone Hedron.
Which is funny because I think that was early on. I haven't put those in a deck in a while.
Yeah, it was around War of the Spark where we had that thought experiment during that 3-hour drive. We were like, what cards are in your signature spellbook? And Randy's like, this 6-mana Mana Rock is one that I really like. And
I was
like,
new.
huh?
I was new.
No, but it's cute, Randy.
Oh,
we love you for that. All right, bring us to our last psychographic. Derek, tell us about Spike.
All right, Spike is this is the person that is the most competitive. They want to prove themselves. They enjoy winning. They have goals that they set for themselves. They're always trying to challenge themselves. They're trying to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys view me, but for myself, I don't necessarily think of myself as a Spike player. I think of myself as a Timmy player who is playing as Spike as possible. I'm playing things like, Galta and these other huge spells, but I built the deck in such a way that I can crank to those spells as fast as possible. But yeah, these are the people that want to win. They do the tournaments, and not that anyone can't do tournaments that aren't Spikes, but these are the people you'll find there, is that they'll win at any cost.
Right. They're the ones who want to win, and so tournaments are a better scene for them, where there's no social contract. There's no you should be nice to people, allow takebacks, let them tap their mana differently, whatever. No, they're the ones who would say, get good, you should have done it, be a better Magic player.
Yeah, there's no social interaction that they don't have to count on. Like when we're playing 4 players, or you can't account for people playing politics and making deals outside of the actual game mechanics. But when it's just like one-on-one, like most tournament games are, they know what to expect. They can tell the outcome of a game better, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they train for the meta. Spikes are often the ones you'll actually find listening to set reviews and listening to pro players and reading articles. Spikes will dive into the deep end to learn as much as they can about their game so that they can counter or prepare for all other moves.
Yeah.
Like if you are listening to any gaming podcast,
except maybe this one.
We're barely a gaming podcast. I do think if you're listening to our deck techs, if you're listening to our deck reviews, then you have a hint of Spike in you.
Yeah.
Like there's a part of you who wants to see how the gears are connecting in the background of the game. And I do think there's something cool about Spikes. I think all of us, as soon as we read an article or picked up a podcast about Magic, we became a little more Spike-like.
And as soon as we created a league, we became a little more Spike-like.
Yeah.
That happened.
Shot ourselves way up.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like I'm the opposite of Derek. I am a Spike that plays like a Timmy instead of a Timmy playing like a Spike. I'm the one who I don't mind combos. I don't mind stacks. I love to play those, and I like to play against them. And it's a form of leveling up myself to play against weird strategies, to play against strong strategies. When we were at Magic Fest Dallas, I played in a tournament and won a box. I have a playmat when I won the Tournament of Champions at my LGS, and it's just the way, I want to win and I want to play that way. But joining our meta, I realized that there were ways to play that weren't fun and ways to play that were. And if y'all wanted to play in this, self-expression meta where we're smashing big creatures into each other, then that's what I was going to do, right? Yeah. And so Ravos and Timna, I made it where all my creatures buff all my other creatures, and so I'm hitting you with, 6 10/10s because that's how I'm going to win in a way that makes sense in this context. But I have decks like Trays in the Infinite that are just going to win in a different way, and I just choose not to pull it out. But I made it, and I keep it because somewhere in the back of my mind, I want to be able to assure myself that I can play at a higher level if I want. Yeah, that's kind of a Spike thing to say. I want to, even if I'm never going to play this deck, I want to build it because I know I can, and I'm going to be able to compete at a higher level if the chance comes up. If I'm playing with a stranger who says, look, I only have a deck with powerful cards, I only have a 9, you want to play with me? I go, okay, sure.
Yeah. I think this is another thing that makes our meta particularly special, that we have these mixes of personality profiles being represented among us. If you heard those 3 profiles and thought, I'm definitely a Johnny, or I'm definitely a Timmy, that's probably pretty rare for people to say I'm only one.
Yeah.
Like all psychological profiles or extremes, you probably exist on a spectrum. All of us probably exist on a spectrum. I think I'm a mixture of Johnny and Timmy like Randy is. We find interesting cards, but then we want to smash them against each other. or we want to see if the high variance can work in our favor in order to have an emotional experience. Derek and Benjamin have those bits of Spike in them where they want to push themselves to the next level of understanding the game and being able to play it at a high level and testing themselves. I think a Spike's hardest critic is themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So those are the 3 player profiles whenever they're talking about card design mechanically, whenever they're talking about what cards do or what they represent in the game. Wizards, in their game design, also considers what they've called aesthetic demographics, which are divided by what they consider beautiful in a game. Aesthetics are the way things look, the way things appear, and the way these things feel. And Mark Rosewater has kind of developed 2 aesthetic demographics, and he considers each of these as their own spectrum. These 2 demographics are called Vorthos, which was the name of some Wizards employee's D&D character, and then Melvin, which was the name of a different D&D character of a different employee. So a person is Vorthos or anti-Vorthos, and then a person can be Melvin or anti-Mel. But more likely, the person is going to be on the spectrum in between, just like with Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. Vorthos people appreciate art, lore, story, and characters. We're the people who fall in love with the cover art on the box for a new board game. We're the people who pick novels based on the cover. And in Magic, we're the people who resonate with cards with good art or characters that have great storylines. A person who is Vorthos appreciates when things have a literary or story type of beauty to them, or an artistic sense.
Yeah, they're the ones who get annoyed at mismatched lands, at you playing a Phyrexian in your Weatherlight deck with Sisek.
Yeah. Equipping boots onto your elephant.
Yeah. They're the ones who both really appreciate and really dislike Universes Beyond because they mess with the Magic storyline. Man, they really like a deck that's entirely Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's so true. Vorthos can be people who really love Magic or certain planes, or making a Walking Dead zombie deck, or making a Stranger Things spellcaster deck. And those are the same people who get annoyed when you start intertwining those things. Saying that Eleven the Mage doesn't belong in your game with real mages.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's interesting because you can look at this. I see this in other games too. Hey, I really like how in Ticket to Ride, it's like you're actually building trains and the different color, or I really hate how Ticket to Ride doesn't represent how a real railroad magnate would do it, right? They would be the type of people who would look at that too, right?
Yeah.
Or they love the storyline of certain games. They love the time period it represents. They love the art on the cards in a game like Successors. They're the ones who really appreciate deluxe editions that go above and beyond.
That's true too. Yeah. Like Mark Rosewater says, this is not opposite to Melvin or Mel. People are either Vorthos or anti-Vorthos. There are some people who don't care about the card's art as long as its mechanics are really good. If this card is just really good because of its abilities, then it doesn't matter what it was called or what its art looked like. It could have the worst art in the game. I don't know. I might get raked over the coals for this. Do y'all remember the Mystical Archive Faithless Looting?
Yeah.
That just...
is that
it
the
just had
one that was...
It was that art that kind of looked like magazine cutouts.
Yeah, I think I do remember that one. It was rough.
The Faithless Looting Strixhaven Mystical Archive. That's right. So I'll put that art up there in the video version. Listen, somebody tried really hard. I'm not an artist. I don't have any art theory training whatsoever. And from my understanding, this is all hand-painted or digitally created in some way. But for the untrained eye, it looks like a magazine cutout with construction paper.
Yeah.
Like taped on it.
And art is so subjective.
Yeah, art is so subjective anyway. But the card is just as good as it's always been. Mm-hmm. 1 red for draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. It's got flashback for 2 and a red.
Yeah.
That is a staple that has been played in Magic for many, many years.
Yeah, 10 years at least. Yep.
There's 22 printings of it. So this is a card that gets reprinted all the time. It just got reprinted in Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Looks like its first printing was Dark Ascension in Innistrad block. Interesting.
I just wanted to add on to that particular piece of art. Magic has been getting in the hot water recently with using some AI-generated art. And then I look at that one and I'm like, maybe that person should have used some AI because, ooh. It's like,
What Magic has it been? Magic specifically?
No. In their advertising.
Yeah. It was an advertisement, but they even came out saying, "No, we paid someone to do all this. This is all original artwork."
Did a person have 6 fingers or something?
No. It was the background, and there were like 5 or 6 cards, I believe, that they were like showing off for a new set. And it was literally at the background. It was like books and like a library kind of setting, like a fantasy library. But yeah, it was AI generated, and they're like, no, this is all real. And then eventually, they got kind of caught, and they're like, we won't do it again. We promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to our psychographic. Vorthos people appreciate art, lore, story, and characters. Some people don't care. They're going to play the card whether it's aesthetically pleasing to them or not. And that brings us to the other one. Benjamin, I think you'd be a good person to tell us about Melvin.
This is the most Benjamin thing I've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah. Melvin, I definitely, if you hadn't brought it up, I was going to say I identify with this more than anything else we've talked about. Yeah. This is a person who really loves mechanics, game interactions, the way the rules are structured, the way that different things interact with each other, just basically the mechanics of the game. And this doesn't just apply to Magic. I think I've mentioned multiple times when we've talked about games we've liked, games that I say, man, I just love how when this game does XYZ, it's a beautiful thing, right? And that's seeing beauty in the complexity, in the interactions, in the game design, rather than in the story it tells, the art it puts on top of it, or whatever. It's more about seeing the code in what was created and saying that is beautiful. That's a work of art in and of itself. And I know several friends, hopefully they're still listening to this podcast that are like that, right? They care about the crunch of a game. They care about whether or not something feels realistic, whether or not the game designers did a good job of streamlining a process or causing a cool interaction or things like that. And Magic is really good about this, about purposely creating cards that work well together, about creating environments when you have multiple sets where different themes will kind of come alongside each other and complement each other, or specifically work against each other. And that's something I really appreciate in a game, and especially in Magic.
Yeah, a card that comes up often in Vorthos Melvin discussion is the Demon Grizzlebrand. If y'all don't know the card really well, and I'll make sure to put it in the video. Grizzlebrand is a 7/7 demon. He has flying and lifelink, and he has this ability. Pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. So we've got pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. He's a 7/7. His mana cost is 8.
He's got swords for hands.
He does that, yeah.
He's pretty awesome. He has big swords and hooks for hand. He's banned in Commander because of his ability. Pay 7 life, draw 7 cards is really good. But 7, 7, 7, 7. He costs 8 mana.
Yeah,
Boo.
Vorthos. Yeah,
That bugs me. That is so annoying. And sure, the game design relies on mana cost to balance all the rest of its abilities. So if he costs 8, that's not enough for pay 8 life, draw 8 cards, make him an 8/8.
Yeah.
That's not enough cost for all of the rest of those ability lines. But it's just so off. Another card I want to pull up is it's from the Baldur's Gate set. It's literally called +2 Mace.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, +2 Mace. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. It costs 1 and a white, so it costs 2 mana. Equip costs 3.
Boo.
They could have made it 2.
They could have! There are other cards that have this same line, +2/+2, equip 2. I think it's literally Volshock Morningstar.
Yeah.
So the aesthetically pleasing version of this already exists, and they decided to make it equip 3 instead.
Are they different rarities, maybe?
Sure,
Those are common.
but it's just the...
Yeah, it's still a flavor fail.
The flavor...
Yeah. And it's and it's not quite like a flavor in Vorthos fashion, but it is a flavor in Melvin fashion.
Yeah.
I look at how those mechanics could have been parallel. Maybe that's the writer in me, the reader in me, who likes stories to have a bit of parallelism, a cycle to repeat itself, but that was so annoying to me.
Yeah.
Derek, Randy, how are y'all on the Vorthos Melvin spectrums? Derek, are you a Vorthos? Do you really care about stories and specific characters and stuff like that?
I think I'm in the middle somewhere. I like the art, the lore, the story, the characters. I got really mad when Omnath wasn't in the March of the Machines story. I was like, oh, I can't wait till they get to Zendikar. And we're going to find out what happened to Omnath, and if, because Omnath is my favorite character.
Yeah.
He was Omnath Locust the Mana was the first deck I ever made because I was inspired by the first deck Travis made for me. Or, it was his deck, but he was letting me play it. It was a green Nylia, big creature, fight stuff. And then Omnath was everything I ever wanted, and I've just loved that character ever since. And when we didn't see him, he was just a card and that's it. I was so upset. And I feel like the story, I'll be super invested, oh, what's going on this plane or whatever. And then the first 8 out of 10 episodes are oh, cool. And then the ending kind of sucks. I'm like, oh, well, that was a letdown.
Yeah. So you had hoped that Omnath would be present in the actual story, lore of March of the Machines.
Yeah.
So we got a card of it, but nobody ever in the story wrote anything about it.
Yeah, and I think that was a real bummer flavor thing for me that I missed out on.
Yeah.
But that being said, I would never let art or whatever stop me from playing the best deck I could play.
Yeah.
With Vorthos, it's like that. I don't care enough about the story or the art or whatever to make a worse deck than something with better... I guess it's Spike talking in me.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
I'm somewhere in the middle. And Melvin's kind of the same way. I like when cards are doing cool stuff and you're like, oh, this is going to, I'm going to pay 10 mana. I'm going to get the roundhouse kick one of you guys, uppercut the other one, and then shake hands with the third one. And it's like, oh, I'm going to pull it off. It's going to be cool. So I enjoy being able to do that and working my way through that the way I like to play the game. But also when things are too complicated and I feel like I get too bogged down in the mechanics and the rules and stuff like that, it's like I stop caring. It's like, okay, I will not play this card or I will not do this because I don't want to keep track of it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
That's how it was with the ring temps for a long time. It's like either I go full in or I don't include any of them in any deck.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There are definitely some mechanics in the last 3-ish years of Magic that totally turned me off, that I'm not interested in including in any of my decks. The dungeons.
Yes.
initiative
Yeah.
day and night. No, I need to hire an accountant to play Magic now. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Get a CPA.
Yeah. And there are even some cards. I haven't cut Kathar's Crusade from any of my decks yet, but there's a part of me every time it comes out where I'm like, man, I gotta make an extra token every time this comes out because each thing is gonna have a different number of counters on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it can get annoying like that.
I feel exactly the same way with Kesar's Crusade. I'm like, is this card 6 mana or 5 mana or however much it is it worth the headache I'm going to have to do when the snowball starts rolling in my deck and I'm making 2 or 3 creatures into the battlefield at a time, whatever. Trigger. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's like the bandwidth of your brain starts slowing down and stuttering because it's created so many blockages.
Yeah.
Like, just like a video game that starts stuttering because it has too many actions it's trying to perform at the same time.
Yeah, that's how it was when we were playing last time. I was playing my Frodo Sam deck. It's a life game deck, and there's so many triggers. And it was. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with the deck yet. I've only been able to play it twice, but it is trigger happy.
Yeah, for sure.
So I can get overwhelmed by that.
Randy, how about you?
I feel like I'm more Vorthos because I do appreciate nice art and stuff like that, and sometimes have kind of like favorite characters and everything, but I don't care so much about it where it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. How can this Loxodon wear these lightning greaves? They don't fit on his feet, like you were kind of joking about earlier. I'm like, I'm not thinking about that.
I'm gonna put these boots on my horse.
Yeah.
Or Tachionova with no feet.
Yeah. This mermaid's gonna wear these boots.
But I mean, I do like to do themes sometimes, with decks, and like the shrines, like that's. I feel like that's kind of like a very flavorful deck. It's
for sure.
Yeah, like the rules like that, and mechanics, I guess, and that all have to work together. But I didn't play it because mechanics work real well. I did it because it's like, a bunch of shrines and chairs were beating people up.
Yeah. For your shrine deck, you took it kind of one step further. You have, for the deck box for your shrines, it's like that little kimono, Japanese-inspired deck box, right?
Yeah. And then, before that, I had the Great Wave style box. And then, and then for my Niv Mizzet, the Living Guild Pact, is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. That's the whole theme of that deck is gold cards and gods, and so I have gold sleeves and a gold.
Oh, that's right,
box.
and the gold box. Yeah. Vorthos people do love blinging out their
aesthetics.
Battlefield.
I like the aesthetics of things, and I want. Whenever I put even just my generic decks that I don't have a lot of thought into it, I'll even be like, oh, I don't want to put this deck in this sleeve, or I don't want to put this deck in this box because it doesn't match the color. And so sometimes I'm like, I had 3 boxes, but the colors don't match, and so I'll go buy a new box.
All you Vorthoses out there, you heard about Vorthos and you're like, man, that's totally who I am. I need my Battlefield to be blinged out. Don't forget that you can use promo code META at ElDoradoGaming.com for 10% off for metal dice and playmats and our Magic the Gathering counters. And join our Patreon for the exclusive 20% off.
I was going to add one more thing about, for me, it's a lot of about the aesthetics of things. I think you were kind of mentioning a little earlier about fine-tuning your decks and the mechanics of it, is Cathar's Crusade really worth it because I got to do all this extra math? And I'm like, I'm willing to spend a little bit more on a card, not because it's mechanically better, but it's like, ooh, I like that art a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So it's like I'll spend the extra $2 because I like the art on this one compared to this one, or
in order to get the alternate art treatment or the foil or
to just not get the old crappy art that I do not like. Yeah. I do not like a lot of that early.
I don't
that first decade of art for Magic. It's
I feel
it's you. No disrespect to them and the people who enjoy it, but to me it's
the masters, the pioneers. They earned their place.
Can see, it's like, oh yeah, this was when Magic was a small company with limited budget. That's how I view it. I'm like, yeah, this looks like it's a limited budget artist. Shots fired!
Wow.
Shots fired from Randy.
We're going to get some bad comments for that.
We would if we had more listeners.
Hey, you know what? I'll see some of those artists this weekend at TCG Con. I'll be like, That's the best you could do? No, I won't do that.
No.
I won't do that.
Oh my god! Randy's
It's
gonna walk
like,
up
it's 20
to,
years later. You've done better than this now, right?
Benjamin, what's the guy who did Curd Ape?
Exactly.
He's
I'm proud of
he's
this
the guy
art.
who's gonna be there.
Yeah. He has a bunch of those old ones. I'm just like, man, this stuff looks
Old Curd Ape. Ken Meyer.
Yeah.
Benjamin's gonna walk up to Ken Meyer.
Just spit in his face.
Who did I say?
What? You said I was going to do it, and
sorry.
I'm not.
No, Randy's
I
gonna
think
walk
Curd
up to
Ape
Ken
looks
Meyer
great.
and just be like, "That's a monkey."
it's been
Herb?
20 years. You're better now, right?
New Curd Ape was Therese Nielsen, who I understand is a favorite of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about all of these psychographic profiles, Timmy, Johnny, Spike, and Vorthos and Melvin. These are the ways that people appreciate games and the way people get into it and ultimately the way they express themselves. Vorthos and Melvin are kind of like intake, what you like in a game as you take it in, and then Timmy, Johnny, and Spike are output, what you give out when you play it. With those in mind, let's take a look at this week's news from the Warfront.
The Germans are on the move.
Okay. This post came from our Magic TCG. This is a subreddit that I don't usually follow. Benjamin, I think you're in Magic TCG.
Yeah. Yep.
But I decided to give it a gander, see if I could find anything. And first off, I loved the title because I loved the reference. This post is titled, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Just Throw My Wife in the Deep End. I love the movie How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. I think it's so funny. They have that scene where they're in the war room, they're all arguing, and somebody goes, "There's no fighting in the war room,"
Right.
which I just think is hilarious. So this guy tells a story, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, of trying to get his wife into Magic the Gathering. He starts off by saying that she's not a non-gamer, but she's more of a traditional gamer. She has weekly games like Mahjong, Canasta, Gin, Bridge. Like, these are the types of games she does play. And he says in his post that he tried for about a year to get her into Magic, doing the things that a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of content creators, and I've even done this myself when I try to teach new players, which is you start from the basics and then you get more and more complex. We had an episode about how to teach your game, and that's what we discussed doing, is starting with the most basic building blocks of the game and then building on once they're ready and once they've understood that basic context. He has this short story where he says, "My sister came by with her new boyfriend for a game night, and we found out that he also played Magic, and they decided to play Commander, 3-player Commander." He says, while setting up, his wife walked into the room and decided she wanted to join us, that she had FOMO, fear of missing out. And he says, now there was a slight problem here. The only decks we had were highly tuned decks for more experienced players. Lots of interaction, combos, things that make a high-powered commander deck. So he was expecting her to get frustrated at all the mechanics getting thrown at her. You know, a bunch of new keywords. He doesn't say what the decks were, but maybe it was mutate, or maybe it was disguise or morph.
Day-night cycle.
Yeah, the day-night cycle. There's undergrowth, like addendum. There's lots of things that happen in Magic. Each set they come up with a new keyword almost. And so, after a 30-year-long game, you need to know like 30 to 50 keywords in order to know what every card can do. So he says, I expected her to get frustrated at all of these different mechanics, but to my surprise, she was enthralled. And while it did make for a slower experience, she held her own, and the next day was asking when we could all play again. He's sharing the story. He says, you need to gauge your student and see what will engage them. He had followed all this advice to start slow, and it had been a year of his wife kind of hemming and hawing and not knowing whether they want to get into it or being that interested. But by being thrown into the deep end and seeing how complex it can get, his wife got more engaged and wanted to know and play more. It sounds like his wife has been a Melvin all along.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone who appreciates lots of rules, mechanics, and how these mechanics work together, but hadn't been able to know that Magic was even that deep of a game. If they're just bashing 6/6s against each other, they might not have known how intricate the game can be. And I just thought that was a really cool story. A neat demonstration of, sometimes you just have to trust your student and show them what the maximum level is. Show them the skill ceiling. That way they can decide if they want to get there or not, or if they want to go slower or not participate at all. But we want our friends to be interested in the things we are. Mm-hmm. But I just thought that was really neat. What do you guys think of that story? Is that how we should try to get Nikki and Derek, your Kristen, into it?
My Kristen would not love to be thrown into the deep end. If anything, I'd have to get her on like the Vorthos stuff.
Yeah.
Find some kind of character or theme or something that she could really connect with.
I mean, she likes Clue. Clue's coming out.
Yeah, I've mentioned it.
I tried to get Nikki with Lord of the Rings when that set came out, and Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, there's an Aragorn card. And
Kristen and I started watching The Walking Dead, and she asked me the other day, is there a Rick card?
Oh.
I said, oh yeah,
yes,
there's
there
a Rick
is.
card. And she asked, is there a Michonne card? I said, yeah. And Michonne creates zombie tokens to distract other people while she attacks.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I'm interested in seeing if I can make some of these decks around some of these Walking Dead characters.
I was thinking the exact same thing, because I was telling Kristen how I felt like this year she's kind of gone into the theme, and I'm kind of trying to inspire her about being creative. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, you feel like a very is it type person. They're all about expression and trying things out and being creative and stuff. So I've been like, actually, as we're talking, I was just kind of browsing through is it commanders that she might enjoy.
Melek, the t-shirt creator.
Yeah, I'm kind of inspired by this conversation. I'm like, oh man, maybe I could find something that Kristen would like.
Yeah. Guys, here's what we should do. We should have a league exhibition match where we all make decks for our partners, and we make them have a 4-player game with us looking behind their shoulder.
Okay.
I love it.
And being the little devils or angels, being like, I think you might consider playing this card.
Sarah would absolutely stomp the yard.
Absolutely, yes, she would.
Yeah, she probably would.
She's a spike.
She's
a heavy spike
for a while.
Well, I mean, been playing, quote unquote. She knows how to play.
She has played with you more than any of our partners have played with us.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. She understands the rules, and she's a spike. If we did this, she would care enough to learn.
She would want to practice beforehand?
Yes.
See, I do not think my Kristen would want to practice beforehand at all. She would say, okay, give me a deck with some horses in it.
Yeah.
And I'd go, oh, no.
So
she's
Sarah,
already lost.
Sarah is a spike, but she's also a Vorthos. She wants pretty cards. Mm-hmm. She wants them to tell a story. So I would have to carefully curate a deck that was both good and pretty.
Yeah.
She really likes pretty cards. So
my Kristen would be like, I want to play Otter Tribal. Well, okay, here's Bronze Sable.
There's 4 of them.
Right.
Randy, what kind of deck do you think Nikki would be into?
Oh, man.
A Lord of the Rings something?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what I would build, would be something Lord of the Rings themed. I hadn't really thought about what kind of deck she would like. I know when Derek was talking about, his Kristen, I think I could see his Kristen being a Simic. Just out of nowhere Simic, all of a sudden. She just, into all the big, weird creatures.
Well, I was thinking, obviously, Strixhaven because of Harry Potter Wizard School.
Yeah.
And is it... Sounds like her first D&D character, which was all fire.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
It's a fire mage.
Pretty much anything from Strixhaven would probably be up her alley, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And she'd never admit it, but I think she is a spike, and I think that's what stops her, is that she wants to win, and she can't win, she doesn't want to play.
Ooh. Well, that, and she hates upsetting other people. So she's like, if I win, I'll upset other people, and I don't want to upset other people. So I just won't play.
That's why we play D&D together, because it's co-op.
Yeah.
Not competitive.
Yeah. That was fun. I just thought it was a cute story. This person's not asking for advice or asking for feedback from the community or whatever, but they just wanted to share an experience that I think is so important in extending your gaming group. Just like we talked about knowing your friends in order to get them to play your games, these profiles can help you to do that. If you can figure out what type of person your friends are, I leaned into the Timmy aspects of Derek and Randy hoping that that was going to be enough to hook them in. And I think it proved that there's enough Timmy in both of them that it worked. And then as they got into the game, they develop more and more of these personality aspects the deeper you get into a game, which I think is normal. You know, as you learn more, you're going to start exploring and getting interested. This was just a cool story of a guy who said sometimes the simple stuff is not what's interesting, and they need to know how deep the pool is in order to see if they're interested in swimming it.
I just want to add real quick. I realized it just came to me what Nikki is. Nikki's ractos. She would 100% be cutthroat and will just want you all to just suffer.
Judith Scourge Diva, maybe?
I mean, yeah, like she's like, nah, sacrifice that, you don't get to keep anything, blow this up, kill this.
Rakdos is how I would self-identify myself as a color.
Like in real life?
Black... Yeah, like if I was to fit into something, I feel like the black ambition, the red passion, the black-red kind of a little chaotic agent.
I do think we should do a color
Rage
pie
Against the
episode
Machine
eventually.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Just like Magic as a game has so many cool ways to know thyself. Like we have these psychological demographics. But the color pie is like a personality test in and of itself. You know, which colors speak out to you. Anybody want to add anything before Benjamin's words of wisdom? All right.
Okay.
Benjamin, take it away.
As per usual, this is not a topic that only applies to gaming, right? There are people in your life who are competitive at their job or who care about the careful interactions between rules and expectations, who care about the organization of their room versus the art on the walls, who care about the story that their lives are telling, or that their clothes tell, or that their timeline on social media tells. There are people who want to self-express, and people who are thrill seekers and want to rush and want to do big things or do cool things. People who want to prove themselves, who want to be the best. They study because they want to get a high score versus the people who want to study because they want to learn something versus the people who study because the topic's cool, right?
Yeah.
And so as you consider these different psychographics, consider yourself in other areas, because I've noticed that the same way I relate to Magic is the same way I relate to teaching, the same way I relate to lawyering, the same way I relate to friendship and basically the activities I choose to pursue. And knowing yourself and knowing the people around you can help you to curate experiences, just as you talked about at the beginning, that you want to have. And so I want to encourage you to be introspective and to be perceptive of the people around you, and try to make at least that part of your world a place where y'all can both get that sort of joy out of life.
Awesome. Love hanging out with you guys. I love our league. I love our podcast. You guys are my great friends. And I
agree.
Yeah, likewise.
I think knowing your personalities has made it easier to be friends.
I think that's true.
Did I just start talking and then just...
No,
it's almost like my mouth was moving without my brain.
Oh boy, story of my life.
All right, well, that is going to bring this week's discussion to a close. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, YouTube. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. We are at a position where we need reviews. If you have not reviewed our podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, wherever you are getting your podcasts, leave a quick 5-star review. Obviously, commenting in your review is going to help also, but we want to make sure that our podcast is showing up whenever people are looking for relationship or gaming podcasts. We want to get up there in the search results. Find us on Patreon at patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. You can also reach us directly by emailing mymythicalmeta@eldoradogaming.com. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
Bye.
Later.
Goodbye and farewell.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.